Hi there. My name is Jeff Sokol, and please excuse me if I'm a little bit fidgety or coming across here as a little bit nervous. This is an unusual way to present a little biography about myself. I feel like I'm talking to a computer, which makes this feel strange. But anyways, let's get right to it. I got a little piece of paper here that I'm going to refer to every now and then to make sure I stay on track. Anyways, so my name is Jeff Sokol. I am 22 years old. I am from the South Bay, a little bit southwest of Los Angeles, California. I've grown up nearby to the beach, and I've always been a fan of the outdoors lifestyle. So yeah, a lot of beach time. I like to go surfing, play some volleyball. I like to be outdoors. I like to play sports. I love literature, art. I like to cook. So definitely have plenty of interests, especially cultural interests, namely art and cuisine and language are things that fascinate me a great deal. So I graduated from the University of Arizona out in Tucson, Arizona. That is a bit more of a desert terrain than I was used to in Los Angeles. So when I first got there, it was an eye-opening experience to experience a different, not so much a different way of life, but the different landscapes, the different cuisine, and it opened my mind. I'm only, 1,000 miles or 900 miles, whatever it was, from home, and it can be so different. So it opened my eyes to learning, to wanting to learn about new places. So I studied Spanish and Portuguese, those languages at school, as well as Latin American studies. I focused on history and Latin American literature. I had a chance to live in Brazil as well as in Guatemala, where I taught English as a volunteer in two different programs. And yeah, the travel bug really bit me hard, and so I want to experience as much as I can. And I view teaching English as well. It's a humbling thing. It's a great opportunity. I've always been passionate about education at an elementary and at a further level. So yeah, the opportunity really is an attractive one to me. Um, so as far as why I want to teach abroad, I've had wonderful experiences doing so in the past, and I just want to keep it going. Part of the reason I studied Latin America in school was that it was very accessible. Getting to travel throughout Central America and South America on a college budget is doable with the US dollar. So I'd been asked before, why Asia? It's such a drastic difference. And I think it's really because part of the reason I went into teaching English as a foreign language is for that very reason, to get out to Asia where there's a good market to do so. But not just that, I think traveling is it can overwhelm the senses, different sights, different smells, different sounds. And I love all that. It's like being a kid again, to be overwhelmed by all this and you just want to soak up as much of it as you can. So I view teaching as this two-way thing where I teach and I have students, but outside of the classroom, I'm a student myself, and that's a very fascinating dynamic for me. I love the idea that I can teach and be taught at the same time, if you follow what I mean here, that it's such an eye-opening and exciting experience to live in a new foreign environment. And from what I've heard, I've had friends that have come and gone and taught in South Korea that absolutely love the experience, and I'm quite envious of that experience. I want to have it for myself. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm in it just to experience a new thing, because I am actually very passionate about education. The teaching stints I had in Guatemala and in Brazil were as a volunteer basis, something I took my own time to do, that I wasn't being paid for. I think that speaks a little bit to this desire to teach. Um, yeah, so as far as it goes as being a professional experience, which I would treat it very professionally, it's also a good chance for personal development, to get new perspectives on the world and on lifestyles and current issues. So I really think it would be a blessing to get this opportunity. And now let me transition into classroom management, which is always important, of course. And I've been fortunate enough to learn some of these techniques from my mother, who's actually been a second grade teacher her whole life. So she's pretty excited that I'm taking a step in this direction toward her field. Um, yeah, so managing a classroom is, of course, very important. And I think there are certain things that are especially important to managing a class. One of these things is consistency. I think as a teacher, you have to be consistent because the students are very smart. They got their nifty brains working, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. They pick up on things. And I think certain students will want to see how much they can get away with, or if they can kind of walk on the gray area of being in trouble and not being in trouble. And I think if you're consistent, then the student knows when he or she is crossing a boundary. Another thing that I like to utilize in the classroom is generally keeping it very lighthearted so students don't feel uncomfortable ever. They know that in the classroom they're going to have fun, but also it's going to be about learning, of course. And one thing I like to do throughout my lessons is have kids move around so that they'll socialize with other members of the classroom and get a chance to stretch their legs out, get the blood flowing. And this works to my advantage in several different ways. You can use it as a way of managing a classroom. For instance, if a certain pairing is particularly chatty or extra talkative, then you move the class a bit sooner than perhaps you had anticipated. And so, yeah, you can feel out certain areas of the room and see how it's working. And if it's not, you can jump to a part where you do pair work and you have kids move around and switch spots. You can do that sooner than you might have otherwise done. But this won't ever confuse the students because in my classrooms, I like to move them around maybe once or twice or three times in any given lesson. So it'll never seem unusual that kids are having to move around. It'll seem like, oh, okay, this is just part of the flow. And again, that goes back to consistency. Also, what I've done is in classrooms in the past, I want to get as much English spoken as possible. So I've done little rules like if you speak in your native language, if I hear a word in your native language, put a couple of cents in a change jar. And then after 4 or 5 weeks, or after a month, or what have you, throw a little party or a little get together, like a pizza party, something to that effect, with the change that we've accumulated. So it's an incentive, because there'll be some fun that we get to have with it, but also, you don't want to pay money out of your own pocket. Who does, right? And yeah, another way just to get kids, get that little bit of energy out of them is I like to do a lot of pair work in twos and threes and fours where they get a chance to socialize. So they'll know when they get a chance, when I say, talk to your partner, share your answers, go around the room, that's their social time. They won't get in trouble for socializing during these periods of the class. But when it's time for business, or when I'm teaching a new concept, or if one of the students is presenting to the rest of the class, that will be a strict time where there shouldn't be any excess chatter. So dividing up the sections between time for socializing and time for paying attention and being respectful, those will be clearly defined. And again, it just all comes back to consistency. So I don't want to go on for too long here. I think I'm well above the 5 minute that I was supposed to achieve. So signing off for now. Thank you guys for your time.